Welcome back to the show. Before the break, we were talking, Doctor, a little bit about the mind diet. And so I wanted you to finish talking a little bit about that, what it is, and then why it's so important. What does it do for the body?
Sure. So let's get through these key components of the mind diet, which can reduce your risk of cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, and so forth by 25% if you would try to adhere to this diet for like a 10-year period. So leafy greens, 6 times per week. Berries, twice a week. Nuts, 5 times a week. Whole grains, 3 times a day. Using olive oil as your primary oil. Fish, 1 time a week. Poultry, which I recommend organic, 2 times per week. Beans, 3 times per week. And then you want to limit red meats, butter, cheese, sweets, fried foods. So, and we all know this, right? It's all the big ones. And I want to emphasize here, it's not just what you're eating. So yes, eat the leafy greens and the lean protein and the organic nuts and seeds and things like that. It's also what you're not eating that will improve your health profile. So it's not just what you're taking in, it's what you're removing from your day-to-day lifestyle that's going to make a huge difference in how well you think and whether you fall victim to things like Alzheimer's disease, cognitive decline, and so forth.
Looking at that diet, that really doesn't look like that much of a struggle to follow. I mean, you can eat plenty of poultry, you can eat plenty of fish, you can have bread and grains. I would assume it's the right grains, right? Ones that haven't been overly refined with refined sugar, right?
Absolutely. And in this program, it was whole grains, right? And we can get more specific. I mean, I can get into an even healthier diet, right? But let's start here. If you just stick with this protocol, you're going to have a major change in how well you think and how well your kids think as well. And so taking those steps to really change, like I said, your day-to-day lifestyle, what's in your pantry, what's in your refrigerator. You know how, Steve, I handed you back, my daughter had a birthday party and there were, and I had some help with shopping for it. And what showed up at my house was, unhealthy chips and cookies and all this stuff. And I basically I packed it all up at the end of the party and I handed it to Steve and I was like, here, please take this. And he's like, wait, what? And I said, I don't want, if it's in the house, it's going to get eaten. So
right.
Out. And it was just that's like implementing a lifestyle change, right? So if it's not there, guess what? Nobody's going to be going to the pantry to eat it.
Well, I wonder who bought all that junk food. I have no idea.
I was trying not to out you, Steve. I was just saying I got some help. So anyway,
thanks.
But that's a perfect example there. It'd be real easy to just keep all of that in because who doesn't like all that junk food? But those are just decisions that I make to help, and every little bit helps.
So, doctor, let's talk a little bit about the science then, okay? And is the reason this diet works, is the overarching reason why this helps with brain health, is because it reduces inflammation?
It's one of the main reasons. It reduces neuroinflammation, inflammation in the brain, big picture wise. This is what I would consider an anti-inflammatory diet. And it's something that I prescribe in my practice. When I'm putting together a treatment protocol, in my treatment plan is a prescription for a particular type of diet. And it's generally an anti-inflammatory diet. It's kind of like a modified Paleolithic diet. And this is essentially what that is. But again, this study, we're talking 92,000 plus people. So this isn't just, a small rat study. This is significant. This is real. And this is what we all ought to be doing starting today, is taking this seriously and making that change. This diet also, Steve, it's really high in antioxidants. And antioxidants are a key to lowering free radicals and toxin load on the body, which lowers free radical and toxin load on the brain. And I talk a lot about that, which lowers neuroinflammation, which helps to improve how you think, how you feel, your mood, your energy level, your decision-making capacity, your executive level of thinking as well. So diet is powerful.
So I wanted to pivot. So we talked about the mind diet. We talked about how you can go about changing your lifestyle in order to one, limit inflammation of the brain, and then two, increase the amount of antioxidants in your body to help the body deal with free radicals and toxins. I wanted to pivot a little bit to supplementation. And so we're talking about changing our lifestyle with our diet, but giving the body the additional tools to deal with, toxins in your body. So I wanted to talk a little bit about glutathione. And can you describe that? Not everyone's heard of glutathione. What is it and what does it do?
So glutathione is what's called a tripeptide. It's a combination of three amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of life. So it's three specific amino acids that come together, and glutathione is manufactured in every cell in your body. It's a key component to detoxification, removing toxins, heavy metals, free radicals from your body so they don't cause damage to your cells. It's the mother of all antioxidants, and real important, it crosses what's called the blood-brain barrier. So it has a significant impact on the brain. And the brain is more vulnerable to exposure to toxins. That leads to neuroinflammation. That leads to cognitive decline, foggy thinking, even things like long COVID. And so glutathione is instrumental in keeping that inflammation down and supporting your body's natural detoxification mechanisms on a second by second basis. And so it is my favorite. I talk a lot about glutathione, especially for cognitive health. It's something that's often overlooked. A lot of people talk about omega-3 fatty acids, which are extremely important, and things like acetylcholine. There's some popular, creatine even helps with cognitive health. But glutathione is just so key because it's impacting all of your body, and it's addressing a major problem that every human being faces today, that it's like an increasingly significant problem because we are exposed to more and more toxins on a day-to-day basis. And toxins can come in the form of environmental toxins, environmental pollutants, carbon monoxide, lead, you name it. But it also has to do with even just stress. And everybody's under so much stress. Stress produces toxins in your body, free radicals that cause damage to your cells and increase inflammation. So glutathione is just one of those keys to keeping inflammation at bay. And I am an advocate for the proper supplementation, the proper use of glutathione on a day-to-day basis. And of course, with any supplement, I always say work with a qualified healthcare professional who knows your specific medical background, et cetera, to make sure you do it in a safe way. But again, glutathione, it's naturally occurring in the body. And so it's about using a form that your body can recognize, and it's not overwhelmed, it's not too much, it's not too little, but it's just right to keep your body in a state of homeostasis or balance, which is what it's all about.
And so have you done, research or reviewed research in this area as it relates to glutathione and its impact on the body and different things?
Yeah, I've been working with glutathione for the better part of 25 years in my clinical practice. There's over 100,000 research studies on the use of glutathione. So it's quite powerful. I've been hired in the past by actually pharmaceutical companies to look at the role that glutathione plays in your body, and specifically looking at an oral form of glutathione that actually is bioavailable and able to be used by the body. A lot of forms of glutathione supplements on the market. So by the way, I'm not advocating going on Amazon.com and researching glutathione and grabbing the cheapest form. Likely it's not going to work because when you take it typically in oral form, it breaks down in your stomach, and it's not considered, it doesn't get to where it needs to in the cells. So you need to use a form that's actually bioavailable. So I created a form that is proven to boost blood levels, get into the cells where it has that effect. And it's a formula that doesn't just include glutathione, but it includes the cofactors, the things that your body uses to keep active glutathione, or what's called reduced glutathione levels, where they need to be, so that they can do their job, which is to detoxify, lower free radicals, and lower inflammation throughout the body, which does everything from improve immune function to improving the subject of this talk is cognitive health.
I think what the product you created, Best Daily Ever, which is available at bestdailyever.com, what's unique about it, I find, is a lot of glutathione supplements taste terrible. And this tastes amazing. The fruit punch flavor is amazing. It's in a pixie stick form. I eat it just in the palm of my hand, or generally I throw it in water, and it tastes amazing. It tastes better than Gatorade, frankly, and it makes it very unique. And in my mind, what makes it even more special is the fact that it actually increases blood glutathione levels, which is very, very rare for glutathione in an oral form. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. That's right. So, talking about things that you can take, right? So we've gone through diet and the importance of diet, and that's like foundational. I haven't talked about exercise, and that's key as well. That those are lifestyle things. We talked about lifestyle quite a bit on our last episode. But in terms of interesting things that are coming up now in the research, there's something called GLP-1 receptor agonists, and you may have heard of Ozempic. Have you heard of that? Has anybody not heard of Ozempic at this point?
I know I haven't.
Yeah, right. So it's the popular weight loss drug. And while it's likely being abused these days, and it's being used in higher doses, and there's a downside to it, it can be extremely beneficial for people who have issues with blood sugar regulation, obesity, cardiovascular issues. It can be very helpful if it's prescribed properly and patients are monitored carefully with their insulin levels, glucose levels, lipid levels, and so forth. But as it relates to brain health, semaglutide, retatrutide, there's a lot of different forms of these GLP-1 receptor agonists. They're peptides. Okay, so just like glutathione is a peptide, these are peptides, and in lower doses, in what's considered micro level doses, so not what's used to cause significant weight loss, but in lower doses, it has a profound effect on cognitive health. It causes neuroprotection. It also lowers neuroinflammation. It actually works side by side with glutathione in terms of enhancing antioxidant protection and protecting the mitochondria of your brain cells, the powerhouse of your cells, your brain cells. And so, we need to do more research, but I am quite fascinated by what I see so far in terms of the role that these GLP-1 receptor agonists can play when used at a microdose and when properly prescribed for long-term benefits with patients who have a predisposition to Alzheimer's disease and to improve cognitive function, cognitive health. It's been shown to slow brain atrophy, so slow the shrinkage of your brain over time. It preserves memory if used over a period of 6 months. It improves executive function, verbal fluency, and again, without the weight loss effects. So I'm talking micro doses used to boost antioxidant pathways, aid in detoxification. It helps with detoxification as well, and reducing a lot of the different markers of brain aging. So that's really important. It regulates inflammation, blood sugar levels, cardiovascular health. So there's a lot more talk about how there's a connection between what's happening with your cardiovascular health and what's happening with your brain health, right? So Alzheimer's and cardiovascular disease there's starting to be some links made there. And so there's this intersection with the detox pathways as well, which is where glutathione can work with these GLP-1 agonists to improve the antioxidant status in your brain.
Well, so what would you say if you were going to suggest to someone the number one thing you should be supplementing in order to help either prevent cognitive decline or reverse cognitive decline? What would you recommend in your practice?
Well, glutathione is number one for me. This just makes sense. In terms of a preventive and lowering inflammation, that's number one. In my practice, I get real specific. So I actually test for all of the different fatty acids, omega-3, omega-6, omega-9, saturated fats, and so forth. I test for all of the nutrients, amino acids, detoxification capacity, the gut microbiome. And so I get real specific with my patients in terms of what I recommend. So in terms of like a blanket statement, I would say glutathione is my number one. I prescribe it to every patient, even with all of the testing, because it seems that the vast majority of people have lower glutathione levels than what can help them to stay as vital as possible and as clear thinking as possible. And don't we all want to be as clear thinking as possible in this day and age with AI, with all of the distractions in the world? We all need to be real focused on thinking for ourselves and making sure those thoughts are clear as possible.
Well, absolutely. Just driving here, I was driving behind some people who I wish they had taken a bunch of glutathione so they had made clear driving decisions. Maybe I'm guilty of that myself sometimes. I think
You?
me, believe it or not, So, well, I think you're available for questions via the phone call, right?
Yes.
What
Yeah.
would the number be that for people to call in if they had some questions?
So to call in, just dial 866-870-KRLA. And if you have a private question, you can reach me directly at Dr. Gina, drgina.com, or Dr. Gina, drgina at bestdailyever.com. So it's Dr. Gina at bestdailyever.com. If you'd like to send an email, you don't want to be on air, or 866-870-5752.
I find a lot of people like to send in the emails. We've had a lot of interesting emails, and we're going to talk a little bit about that after the break and talk a little bit about what we're seeing with some of the efforts going on in Washington with Secretary Robert Kennedy. We'll see you guys after the break. This is the Get Healthy America Show with Dr. G.